Good morning and welcome. I'm Chris in the upper deck by PinstripeChronicles. With me today is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. Good morning, welcome.
And thank you for sharing some of your Sunday with us or whenever you're viewing this. We hope you'll continue to join us every week. To start us off, Lynn, where would you like to make the cut? We have lots of things to go over today, which is a surprise to both of us, but where would you like to begin?
I thought I'd begin where we left off and where we mostly are, Chris, and like I was saying earlier, I'm representing the 2020 season in my 2022 season in the way I'm dressed today. Mentally disheveled, disordered, and disarray, because that's where we still are.
That's where we are.
But and that's where we pretty much were heading the last time that we were together. But yeah, we do finally have some news that has happened since the last time we were together 2 weeks ago. So why don't you just hop in on the big topics?
Well, one of the big topics, of course, is the lockout. Most recently, the MLBPA presented a proposal to the MLB, who were to come back. As I understood it, Jeff Passan reported that they would come back with a counter offer, and which would be presented during an in-person bargaining session early this week that just went by. Well, they did not present a counter proposal, and instead they requested that a federal mediator step in and help the two sides resolve their obviously long-standing issues.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what followed was, mixed opinions.
Right.
Directly, the word is that the Players Association is not having it. They don't appear to trust that a mediator would come to any good. I read in the New York Times article that given they used 1994 season as an example where a federal mediator had been brought in and the World Series ended up being canceled. And it was like 5-6 months later before an agreement was even reached.
Right.
So I don't even know if they'll be able to mediate having a mediator at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And the players, in fact, yeah, their response was interesting. It was, why don't you come to the table? They did not want, they refused the idea of bringing in a mediator outright.
Right.
And some of the players that I came across on Twitter who were responding to this, one was Lucas Giolito of the White Sox. And he said, as a result of that because there's really no telling when spring training will start, now there's no telling when the season will start. This is just delaying unnecessarily what is, the 2022 season. And I always respect Lucas Giolito and Will Middlebrooks, a former player for the Rangers, said, just so you guys know, the league could lift the lockout and everything could still start on time. Bargaining could continue. Spring training and with the regular season underway. No agreement doesn't mean no baseball. A lockout means no baseball, and MLB fears a strike. And that's why we're locked out, and that's why we're at this standstill where we're at now. But I wondered, Lynn, what you thought about a strike. Should that present itself as an option? Do you see that ever happening?
I see it happening, and that's what unions are for. Right. When things reach a certain point, it would seem unfortunate because I don't think they're at a place, not knowing the ins and outs of negotiations. Usually when there's a strike, it's after a significant amount of time spent in real talks,
right,
and real negotiations. And unless there's something we don't know about, which, we could conspire about,
Right.
it just doesn't seem like the next step. It would be a justifiable step, in my opinion.
Right.
But I would first like to see the owners give on this lockout, because I think, what you just shared would give it would benefit the owners, if they're not going to reach an agreement and it's getting very clear that that's not going to be the case, then they'll still continue to get their almighty dollars in their pockets, and we get to have baseball.
Right.
And so, that seems to be the balance here. Are the owners going to give and let them play, or are they not? Then they're going to walk, and the owners will still have nothing, and probably even worse.
Right.
So I would understand if they did it, the players. I would support it. I fear what Yankee Twitter would turn into, because
yes, absolutely.
I've been very quiet, and it'll be active again, but it's not going to be pretty. But we never really are.
Right. No.
Right.
I wish I was a labor attorney, or I knew a labor attorney, because I'd love to really understand better what the MLB hoped to accomplish by requesting a federal mediator, because the players just saw it as a ploy for publicity. Hey, we're trying, see, like that. And the players look like they're the ones who are giving the pushback.
Right. Well, I didn't think of it that way, but I would say that the players are onto something.
Yeah.
And since you mentioned it, Chris, if anyone listening is a labor attorney or knows a labor attorney, we'd love to have them on as a guest.
Yes, come on and tell us how it works.
Absolutely. I think everyone would want to know the ins and outs, just so we understand, because we're certainly not getting information from the people involved here. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and in the absence of any real information, what we're getting is a lot of rumors swirling around again. And one of the biggest rumors that has come out of Twitter in the last couple days is John Hyman saying that the Yankees are going to be going hard after Freddie Freeman after the lockout. Now, I don't know his source, but...
Right, and John Hyman is very credible and respected, but yeah, not citing a specific source, and really it's not new buzz. It's buzz that keeps coming up, and so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and each time it comes up, it gets a little bit more suspect, even for it coming from John Hyman. But there was reaction that I saw on Twitter about it. I think by and large, people are for Freddie Freeman. I mean, why not? First of all, we do need a left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
Desperately. Yep. Second of all, his glove. I mean, he is the full package. I don't think anyone's questioning that.
Nope.
But then the issue becomes, how would that solve, or would it solve the stopgap at shortstop issue that we have? And so that, excuse me. So the stopgap, if we went the stopgap route, we have 2.5 years roughly, right, of, fairly good fielding, not sure about hitting, but it'll provide a year or two of production that won't cost the Yankees much money. Right? But at the same time, and no one thinks that Peraza would be horrible at shortstop.
Right.
But what even does that mean? Okay, we'll take mediocre, because it's not likely we're going to get Correa.
Right. If we get Freeman, will we get Correa? Although there should be no reason why we can't have both. But that doesn't seem to be the way the Yankees have been trending in recent years, is just a spendorama. You know, that hasn't been happening.
Right. And then, you know, there are some people saying that on Twitter, in this particular thread by our friend Arby, and he is a Beltran 1993 is his handle. You know, some people aren't seeing the appeal of Freeman. And I think I just stated the appeal of Freeman. I don't think anyone, you know, statistically can not see the appeal of Freeman, but maybe that's more in the context of we can have Rizzo, and if we're willing to have a stopgap that isn't horrible, why wouldn't we be willing to bring back Rizzo, who's more than not horrible, to say the least, and you know, other than the left arm, then, you know, would we really be getting Freeman because of being the left-handed hitter
Right.
that we need?
Right.
And would that be worth the price? And would that be worth, you know, releasing Rizzo? And with him, we'd probably have to go to, you know, one or two really good prospects.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I was reading an article from View from 314 Feet this morning, and also Brendan Cuddy, if you're interested, has an article today in NJ.com about the Freddie Freeman rumor, speculation, possibility, and it sounds like it would take what he's looking for is 6 years at 180 to 200 million per, you know, for contract. And I don't know, I guess the Braves are sort of balking at 6 years. They want to go more like 5. I don't know what the Yankees take would be on that, but you know, certainly he's 32 years old.
Right.
5 years brings us to his age 37 season. But I still think Freddie Freeman, you know, he's an MVP level, maybe, is he an MVP? May even be an MVP as far as I know. That would be a welcome in the Yankee lineup. But
yeah, I know at least he's a Golden Glove.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think maybe even multiple. I mean, he's a excellent get. But the point remains, locking into 5-6 years puts you in a you know, Guardian-like situation there. My one for the episode. And so that's a consideration. And in effect, you know, that's not definitively a stopgap, but it's not a longevity position, you know, a player either.
Yeah. Right.
In the scheme of things. So, and then as compared to Rizzo, who has some years less, I don't remember his exact age. He's not near Freeman's age.
Yeah, I don't recall either.
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
I don't either. I don't believe so, but you know, we'll be corrected on I'm sure about that.
Yeah. But either way.
Yeah, either way. I mean, to me, you know, I wanted to see more from him at bat for sure. But he was a solid contributor in the infield.
Right.
So, you know, to me, between Rizzo and Freeman, other than the age thing, if that exists as a difference between the two of them, does the extra left-handed batter really justify the new contract, you know, the new extended and extensive contract for a 32-year-old?
Right.
And go with what you know, and go what you know from seeing elsewhere.
Yeah.
And how would he do in the Yankee uniform? Because we've also seen, look at Gallo, who I hate to use it as an example because, you know, I think there's more to come from him. But he came on as, you know, the heavens opened and, you know, he was the hero of the Midwest.
Right.
And that didn't play out for us.
No, it did
You
not.
rule out that that's going to be the case with Freddie Freeman if he comes over, regardless of how great he has been.
Right.
But it is true that the Braves aren't exactly jumping at him either. It doesn't mean, though, that that the Yankees should open up their, very, very tightly shut wallet,
Right.
And overbid what the Braves seem to be willing to give if they give.
Right.
And really, it's a very, very extended stopgap when you think about it.
Right.
Bringing him on. So, and it's interesting because one of our other friends, Chris, that you also know, Eric, Medic 988, put up a poll the other day and asked, who would you rather, Freeman or Correa? Knowing that Freeman was at 6 years for, X amount of dollars and Correa was at 10. And it was really interesting because it was, last I checked, it was split. That the opinions were split right down the middle on that.
Yeah.
And so
that surprises me.
Yeah, I found that surprising as well because I think Correa and Freeman, in terms of reputation, in terms of statistics, are pretty on par. They're both considered, solid superstars, really, yeah. Right, on their respective teams. But Correa is younger,
right?
And we'd have him for longer if we were to offer a 10-year deal and actually get him.
Yeah.
But so that's interesting, and it seems like apples and oranges,
right?
Because the other thing in favor of Correa is that we clearly need a shortstop.
Yes, and that I was just going to say, up the middle defense has been a problem for the Yankees. And they've been playing DJ LeMahieu all over the infield. I mean, I realize that they brought him in as a super utility guy, but let's face it, that's not the role that he came to play. Especially not, I think that ideally they would have him at second base all the time if they didn't have the problem with what to do with Gleyber Torres. Right. So, to shore up the defense up the middle behind, some of these, pitchers, Garrett Cole, hopefully Sevy, it would really be, it's really important to do that. And if they go with a stopgap, I think the only encouraging thing about that is it'll be a stopgap with a glove. The only thing stopgap about them will be whether or not they're an offensive juggernaut like Correa. Yeah. Because someone like Andrelton Simmons is going to give you very, very passable defense. Whether he gives you anything on offense, that would just be gravy. Right.
And we've been needing a solid infield for a while now, and I know a lot of that had to do with the injury plague that there's been for the past couple of years that really put LeMahieu in the situation he was in, toggling around. And we talked in a previous episode about batting order, which I think we should get to as well related to this. But I firmly think that seeing what I see about LeMahieu and his temperament and his approach, I think having him settled would make a big difference, both on the field, which I have no issues with his performance on the field, right, but also just all around would be better. And I also would trust him at second base, which to me, that's the captain of the infield to me, because all things can really begin or end with the second baseman. If they're the one to get the ball, and in terms of releasing and knowing who to go and coordinating that. And I think he's been, trying to be both second base and shortstop when he's at second base because of Torres.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't think the Yankees ever envisioned the possibility that Gleyber Torres would not have a position. He was so touted as he came up through the Cubs system as a shortstop. And when he came, then he came up and he was at second base. So then the argument was he was playing out of position. So now, then he's put in at shortstop. He doesn't play well there. I mean, the Yankees have to be thinking, at this point, Gleyber Torres, trade maybe, possible down the road. Could he be a DH somewhere? Same thing. I mean, I'm thinking of someone like Miguel Andujar as well, who might have opportunity. And I hear that the DH is something both sides pretty much agree on. Right. So we might actually see that. But, I don't know what the Gleyber Torres solution is.
Well, if we do want to hold on to him for whatever the reason might be, I think that we're back to talking about a potential stopgap at shortstop where perhaps Peraza does get called up, and Gleyber is on the bench. I'm not so sure about DH because I think his producing was very shaky still. But to have him there as a second guy for short, or
right.
Let's see what Peraza has, but then our ship would have sailed on Correa, and I'm not even sure why Story isn't even being floated around anymore, by the way.
Story definitely would not be a stopgap.
No.
Story would be, another elite opportunity if we were able to do that.
Yeah, but it just came to mind because if we're back to tossing Correa around, why isn't Story in that mix? What's the story?
What's the story? Well, and I have heard people say that maybe Gleyber could play that role off the bench of coming in, as a utility guy. But I don't want to ever see Gleyber at first base. I don't know about you, but
no, and I don't really see him as a utility guy because he hasn't been immediately comfortable where he's been moved to.
Right.
A utility guy has to seamlessly step in and be as if he's the permanent one.
Yes.
And we just don't see him that way at this point.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really seem much of an option. He's had the most experience, I guess, to this point at short. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But
let's use him to spell. At the two positions they've toggled him between, and if we want to hold on to him. But you're right. If the DH becomes this universal thing, and like you said, things are looking positive that way, certainly opens up a lot of options to the number of teams that they could offer Torres to as an extra man on the bench. So I guess like everything else, to be determined.
Right, and we haven't even thought about Olsen. What would take to bring over someone like Olsen from the Athletics. There's a possible trade scenario there with the Athletics if that was and a perfectly acceptable, to Freeman or Rizzo. I mean, I think I would say, in my opinion, Freeman, Olsen, Rizzo, if I had my druthers, as to who. But I really think Correa, in my opinion, is the keystone to solidifying the infield.
Yes.
And if we don't do that, make that move, I think whatever they do at shortstop is going to determine whether they think this is a championship team or not. Because if you're going to put a championship product on the field, then that means Correa and first base, with some, more or less elite talent there.
Right. And then directly connected to that is expectations, though, because if we're going to decide that way, for a season that we're not even sure is going to play out in a normal way,
right,
then are we tossing dollars at something that's not going to be a actual need?
right.
And that might be some of the stalling to, trading at this point.
Yeah.
Which also speaks to the ownership's attitude about, well, we just might not even have a full season this year, or a season at all, and so there's this, domino effect going in multiple directions instead of just like that.
Right, because really, I mean, for example, I read that the Yankees are slated to win the AL East this year. They're predicted. I don't know if that was Fangraphs or who it was, but anyway. And I thought, how can we don't even know what the team will consist of. We don't know what based on what. And not only that, but how many men on the 40-man roster have never even set foot on a major league field? I mean, there's, so many different complications to predictions right now, but it's still fun, and it's what we've got instead of the hot stove right now. So
yeah, we'll take anything positive that speaks of the Yankees we used to know. We'll take it, but what the hell? Like, how is anything being projected right now?
Right, exactly.
And I've lost count, but we are either in the beginning of pitchers and what would have been pitchers and catchers, or right knocking on the door there.
Yeah.
So the late clock is already ticking.
Yep.
And so that makes everything behind it either late or scrunched together, or so, and then there's that other domino effect of how many games will be played.
Yeah.
We have AAA saying, hey, guess what? We're going to play 150, 180 games this season and going into late September.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, my season ticket money is going to go to the Hudson Renegades.
There you go. Definitely.
Well, it's my so that was like a little dagger in the heart. Happy for the AAA and those players getting extended experience. That's only going to benefit the team, but it's also acknowledging, well, they're probably not going to be tapped as early or as often this season, so we might as well extend our season and make our money locally.
Right. Support your local farm club.
That's right. Yeah, Small Business Day. Every day is Small Business Day, now through September. Yeah.
And another topic that we haven't touched on yet is the Carlos Beltran hiring. He's going to be, it's been announced that he'll broadcast 36 games with Yes this season, having lost David Cohn to Sunday Night Baseball. What do you think about that?
I'm wide open to anyone who can intelligently articulate the game during the game. If he comes anywhere near to providing the insight and explanations of what's going on play by play the way Coney does, because that was the great balance. That's the great balance between Coney and Kay, right? Like, Kay has this huge, brain on history and biography and, how this relates to, that or this player and the other. And Coney is right there with the mechanics of that pitch were horrible. And, even on the plays on the field, he breaks it down, and that's what's needed. So, and everything I've read about Beltran seems to fit the bill. And I know that the fan base is more than divided about this, probably leaning more about why. And I'm wondering if it has anything to do at the root of some blue and orange being in Beltran's past.
Well, that or some orange and white from the Astros.
That's right, too.
I was surprised, actually, by the reactions that some people I know had. One of my friends was not excited because he said Beltran is a cheating bum, which I'd forgotten he was a cheating bum because I'd forgiven him. Because I don't know why. I know he's smart. I know he got the Mets job, which I thought was a great hire for them. And then I forgot that he was a bum. So anyway.
I
I've always liked Carlos Beltran. And, I guess he was the ringleader, actually. And
he just reminded me. All right.
I know. On Twitter, Rob Fontenot tweeted that the Yankees when they hired Beltran, they hired a player from the 2017 Astros team that stole a World Series and Judge's MVP from the Yankees to cover Yankee games. So he was pissed, saying, what the hell are you doing with there?
And so I know we're going to get into the Hall of Fame next. And there's a tie-in here. It's a great segue, right?
I think there is.
But this is where you have a choice to make. And I'm not a proponent. I'm not going to, sway either one. You can stay mad and disgruntled and as, wrinkly as my shirt about the past and the grudges we hold. And grudges will hold forever because they're fun to hold. Yes, I'm talking about you, Red Sox. Or think objectively about what is the next best thing or the next possibly good choice to fill a need.
Yeah. And
when you're a Yankee fan, we're not so good at being the bigger person and choosing option B, right? And I include myself in that because, I put out plenty of bang the trash can memes in my lifetime. But I'm also one who, segueing onto the Hall of Fame, thinks that, this needs to be revisited. Pete Rose was a cheater of a different kind, but put him as a manager. Or so right. I think that there's a morality issue at hand here, and morality is nothing but subjective,
right?
And so it can't be quantified, and it's not black and white.
No.
So, and you're not doing your job if everyone is happy, said Winston Churchill. And so no matter what, right. There's going to be disagreement on any decision made about anything. But so saying all of that, although I did forget until you reminded me that he was an Astro and likely the ringleader of it, that had me going back to the devil side. But I'm willing to give him a shot. I understand that no one's ever going to replace Coney. But Kay needs a friend.
Yeah, Beltran. It's time to forgive and forget. I thought we were on the forgive and the forget train when David Ortiz got into the Hall of Fame.
Well, right. So let's go there.
So let's go into that discussion. I grew up, but in my young adulthood, I started watching baseball in Pittsburgh. And I was watching those early Bonds teams where he was on with Jimmy Leland. And so I was a Bonds fan before he even went to San Francisco. But did I remain a Bonds fan? No. He became he was an ass. He was not a good interview. He was not good to fans. There was never good news about Bonds. And then the PEDs. So maybe he's just not the nice enough guy to get in the Hall of Fame. Maybe it's nice guys get in.
Well, if that were the case, there would be a lot of plaques taken down from the walls from the 1900s through now.
Yeah.
If you're going by that, and it's very similar to what I was just saying about Beltran. Do Hall of Famers get in because they're the full package? Because the press adore him. He visited every local hospital. He has a charitable foundation.
Right.
He has quaint little stories about, signing a baseball for a kid who was waiting in the lobby of a hotel and, all those things.
Yep.
Or do you go, what is the definition of the Hall of Fame? I think the Hall of Fame itself has either never really had that or lost it.
Yeah.
Because from my upper deck view, it's very subjective. And the press has a lot of power. And so, you raised one really good example of Bonds. But what about Wells? What about David Wells? Who this was his last shot. And does he deserve that? And so I think the root question is exactly that. I think it needs to be normed. I think that there has to be a rubric that is, followed. I don't mean to get all, researchy about it, but, there has to be a standard, of measurement here, because otherwise it really does look like you say, sometimes a good old boys thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really looking and smelling like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've often wondered, as a fan, why players aren't the ones who vote for the Hall of Fame. Why is it baseball writers? I guess I understand historically maybe why that is, yes. But maybe it's time to turn the voting over to the players. It's a question of who's the Hall of Fame for. What's it for? What's it about? If it's about celebrating the greatest players of the game, then, let's celebrate that. And then certainly, we'd have to revisit the David Ortiz, question. But not that I'm saying he shouldn't be in. I have nothing against David Ortiz, except that he was a lifelong, that he's a Red Sox fan and I'm a lifelong hater. So, but anyway, the Hall of Fame was, in the end, turned out to be no fun for Yankee fans, as it turned out, and no fun for fans of Bonds either, or Clemens, or as you say, David Wells, or other people who fall off the ballot now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this is going to seem very apples to oranges, but the Academy Award nominations come from the industry.
Yes.
They come from the actors, actresses, directors, and so forth, not from the film critics.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
So it seems to me that this is, again, so that's the apple. The orange is that really should be what's happening here. And maybe not just one source either.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be established, if there's a formula for like X percentage of the votes from press, X percentage of votes from fans, X percentage of votes from players.
Yeah.
And come up with some sort of metric for that. So then everybody's represented.
There you go.
You hear me, Cooperstown?
Yeah.
Call.
Lynn just solved the issue, which is a great thing, because as far as I can tell, I'm at the end of my list of topics for today, unless you have something further.
No, I would just really love to see some activity on @PinstripeChronicles about the topics we discussed today, so that we can keep this conversation going. Lord knows we're scratching for conversations these days.
Right.
So particularly this last topic, Chris, I think it would be great to hear everyone else, that wants to weigh in on that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that does it for my list as well.
Yeah, and we appreciate your joining us and spending some time on these topics with us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and look for us next Sunday. Thanks very much. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Oh.